OpenAI have just allowed public access via their API to ChatGPT version 4. In this video, I'm going to show you how you can use it. Okay, so to start this project off, I've created a folder called GPT-4. I'm going to open up Visual Studio Code Editor. So I'm going to put code and then dot. And that should open up Visual Studio Code Editor for me. I've zoomed in to make it more visible for you. So inside the terminal at the bottom here, I'm going to run npm init and then -y, and that will just default yes to all of the answers. So that should create a package.json file for us. So to launch this project off, we're going to install some packages. So let's run npm I. We're going to need express, body parser, OpenAI, and also .env. This is to allow us to access an environment file we're going to create as well. So once they're installed, inside the package.json file under dependencies, you should see those all listed there. We've also got our main here looking at index.js. So let's now create an index.js file. And this is where we're going to have all of our code for our API running. So with all that created, let's go into our OpenAI and we click login. If you haven't got an account, you can go and click register. And we're going to be just interested in the API section here at the moment. I'm going to go to the GPT section. So here we can see we have the newer models listed, which is GPT-4 and GPT 3.5 Turbo. I have created a full application on the GPT 3.5 Turbo. I'll put a link above. Make sure you check it out after this video. But for now, we're just going to be using GPT-4. There is other things in here. So this is the Python way of doing it. They do mention that for fine-tuning at the moment, don't use the legacy models. They will be coming out with fine-tuning for GPT-4 and 3.5 Turbo very soon, and just to hold off and use those instead. These legacy models, they will be discontinuing this year. Okay, so with all that done, let's now jump over into the top menu here and click View API Keys. I'm just going to delete this testing one here and create a new one. So let's create a new secret key. I'm just going to call it testing. Create new secret key. I'm going to copy that and paste that over in a notepad ready for later. So that's actually all the information we need from here. We can go back into the documentation and just have a look around and see if there's anything here that would be helpful. Okay, so let's go back into Visual Studio Code. And let's create that .env file, so .env. I'm going to create an OpenAI _API _key, and that's going to be equal to the API key that we just got. So let's click save and let's come out of that now. We don't need to use that again. And now we can actually start creating the application. So we need to first create a few variables. So const express will be equal to require express. Const body parser will be equal to require body parser. And then we need to import the OpenAI bits. So const, and this is going to be an object. We're going to import configuration. And we're also going to import OpenAI API. And we'll be importing those from require and then just OpenAI. We also need to import our .env. So we can just say require .env.config, and that will allow us to use this .env file over here. So now we can start building the application. So let's say const app is equal to express. I'm going to now have app use some middleware, so app.use and then body parser.json. And now we need to configure the OpenAI to use that API key that we have. So let's create a new constant called config. And that's going to be equal to a new configuration. And inside of here, we're going to create an object. And it's going to be API key, all lowercase API, uppercase K, lowercase e and y. And that's going to be equal to process.env OpenAI API key. And just to double check that that's going to be the same as the one in here. So once we've done that, we can now have OpenAI use that config, and we do that by creating a new constant called OpenAI, and that's going to be equal to new OpenAI API, and we're going to inject that config into there. So that's actually all the information we need to start creating our endpoints. So let's start by creating a post request, so app.post. I'm going to call this endpoint message. And that's going to take a request and a post out a response. So when we send it a message, it's going to look something like this. It's going to have an object, we're going to have a message, and then the actual message that we have here, which is going to be whatever text you decide to put in there. So to make that easier to use, we're going to create a constant called message, and that's going to be equal to request.body.message. So now we need to send that message to OpenAI. Now to do that, we're going to create a const called response, because that's going to be the response we're going to have from OpenAI. And that's going to be equal to OpenAI.create chat completion. And this is going to take in a few variables. We're going to have a model variable, and that's going to be equal to GPT-4. And we're also going to have a messages. Now, there are a lot more that we can use for this. If you want to know more about them, you can go look at the documentation. But for now, we're just going to be posting a single message to this. So we're going to create an array. That array is going to have an object, and we're going to have a role of a user. And that's then going to take in a content of message. Once we've done that, we want to then reference this response because it returns a promise. So we're going to say response dot to then, and it's going to return a result. We want to then say res.send data.choices, and then the first instance of the choice inside this choice array. And they've changed this a little bit now, so it's .message.content, and that should send through the response back to the user. So let's close that off, and we'll do a catch as well, just in case there's an error, and we're just going to console log that error out. So that's actually our endpoint ready to use. So let's start this application up. To do that, we're going to do app.listen, and we're going to listen on port 3000. And we're just going to console log that that is now running. So let's click save, and inside the console at the bottom, we can run node dot. And we can see server is running on port 3000. So this is actually now ready to test. So if we open up Postman, and we create a post request, we can enter localhost port 3000 /message. And inside the body tab here, we want to click on raw and then drop down to JSON and create that JSON that I showed you earlier. So message, and that message will say, would you be able to help me? And we can click send. And here we go, we get a response from GPT-4. Of course, how may I assist you? So we can actually take this further if it's a single person using this API, for example. So if, say it's you and you just want to use it on your watch or your phone or something, we can create a message array. And that message array will be just an empty array. And we can post in this content from here into this array. So above this chat completion, we'll say message.push. We'll need to change the name of this constant here. So we'll actually change this to messages. And we'll say messages.push, and we'll push in this content that we have here. And then inside of here, we'll change this to messages. And then when we get our response, obviously we want to push that response into there as well. So let's say messages.push. Role will be assistant, and then the content that we want to push in there is results.data.choices, the first option, messages.content, the same as what we're sending back to the user. So now we can actually have a conversation with the AI. So if we click save on that and we restart this and run node dot again. So back in Postman now, what we can do, let's change this content here in the message just to show it's conversational and say, what is my name? And click send. It should come back saying it doesn't know your name. So now I can say, my name is Tony. Click send. Then I should be able to go back to it and ask it again, what is my name? And it should now respond with that information. So you can now see that this is actually turned into a conversation rather than just a one-hit AI. If you wanted to take this further, you can actually assign a user ID to someone of this array. So it's broken down into users, and you could have that conversation happen with lots of different users rather than just a single one. If you found this video useful, please hit the like and subscribe button. Also, check out the video on screen now where I show you how you can actually create a complete chatbot front end and back end. Thank you for watching.